And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live episode. So today we're going to be talking about something. So today's topic, listen, I want you guys to think about this. Everybody, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to, let's say you're an individual, you're a man, you're a woman, you're growing up, you walk around, you watch a lot of movies. So you walk around like this, all your back's all slouched, your body's all like slouched over, and you're like, lacking self-confidence. And then finally, as you get older, you start coming up on those YouTube videos. You watch a YouTube video, the video is like, you know what? This is 10 things to get confidence. And you start feeling confident. And then your friends like, you know what? Oh my God, I'm starting to notice it. You're getting a lot more confident. I like this in you. It's like, oh my God, I see myself in you. Like you start seeing, people start seeing like you start getting confident. Everyone's like rooting for you. And then at some point they start saying, oh, you're too cocky. Who does he think he is? Who does she think she is? You see, the thing is, this is everybody wants you to succeed until you start doing better than them. Then you become the enemy, right? Everybody wants you, when you're the underdog, everybody wants you to get to the top, okay? Until you get to the top, and then that's when everyone is like, whoa, what happened? What's going on right now? What's this? So if you guys do me a favor, go ahead and comment in the chat. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. Go ahead and pretty much let me know, what's up. This is going to be kind of a Q&A session kind of deal. So I'm going to take your questions. So just go ahead and let me know what your questions are, and then I'm going to take the questions in the end of the chat as well. Okay, just want to make sure pretty much everyone is like, familiar as to how everything's going to work. But before we get started, guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as usual, I'm going to go ahead and play the intro because let's get it. This video, and the reason why I want to actually show this is because this is something that I actually see as very, it's, I don't know if you've been on TikTok recently or been on YouTube, you've been on Instagram, or you've been on watching social media in general, right? And there's this, people do this, what you call it, like, what would you rate yourself? I just kind of started seeing that, and then there was a reaction I wanted to talk about, and someone actually did something which I want to go ahead and show here. Let me see if I can get that, if I can pull that up. Actually, I can't pull it up, but I think I can pull it up. Let me just go ahead and pull it up right now. All right, guys. Yeah, make sure to go ahead and join the newsletter as well, guys. The link is going to be in the chat. Go ahead and join the newsletter, and also go ahead and leave your comments in the chat as well. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from. But let me go ahead and pull this up here. As you guys know, we're doing this live, so this is not a recording. This is actually live. So everything that is, every comment and everything you guys do will be basically shown on screen. Okay, but let me go ahead and get this kind of pulled up right now, and then we'll go ahead and pretty much get started. And also, guys, just an FYI, we will be doing a live in studio podcast. Okay, we will be doing a live in studio podcast with, let me see if I can pull this up here. Apparently I couldn't pull it up. That's kind of crazy. All right, no, that's what I'm looking for. But we're gonna be doing a live in studio podcast. Thinking I'm gonna be doing it on the 20th or the 21st. I'll be doing a live podcast. But I want to go ahead and I want to go ahead and get you guys. This is one thing I want to go ahead and show you here too. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, there we go. It's a what will you rate yourself? And I'm gonna go ahead and move myself from the screen. And then she kind of gives a commentary, and I want you guys to go ahead and I want to take a look, Adrian Scott, this is exciting. Let's go. Perfect. Hey, Adrian, I see you comment there, man. Howdy. I'm not used to guys reading the comments a lot, so now I'm gonna just be pretty much reading it now. Keep it clean, guys. Nothing crazy. And
I'd say a 6.
What I find funny about when someone rates themselves a really low number is the comments will always look like this. That made her way more attractive. She's one of those that you don't rate, but try to marry, all this shit, right? Whatever. Like, very positive. But let someone rate themselves a 10. This girl rated herself a 10. Look at the comments. 6.7. They always say 10. I'll get her almost an 8, -10, whatever. So when you're not confident, people comment, yes, why doesn't she have confidence? But if that same girl who rated herself a 6 would have said, yes, I'm a 10, people would have been like, ew, she's mid. She's a -10, whatever. Like, so do you want us to have confidence or not?
Okay, awesome, perfect. This is exactly. Let's go. All right, let's see here. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys my commentary. So this is actually what I think. All right. Let me see. Someone said, I'll let someone surely watch this. Okay. I don't know what that is, but okay. Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. Like I said, as you guys, every comment will be shown on screen as they come in. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is what she says is very important, very interesting, because we're going to actually diagnose the psyche and the psychology of the human mind and the human brain. Okay, so everybody, people in general, will say that they want you to succeed, right? That's why you say when you rate yourself a 5, you rate yourself a 6, you rate yourself a 7. They're like, you can do better. You deserve better. You're more than that. You should give yourself more credit. You need to believe in yourself more, blah blah blah. But you rate yourself a 10. They're like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Or you say, oh, God forbid you go, I'm a 15. They're gonna be like, who in God's name do you think you are? Now, why is that? Because there's a human phenomenon in the sense too. If you pretty much ever watch Bernadette Gordon. Hey, Bernadette. I'll read the comments at the end. I'll take the comments at the end, but just go ahead and you guys leave the comments, drop your comments. I'll leave the comments I'll read the comments pretty much. We'll get into the chats in a bit. But what's interesting is this is as you begin to progress, you start to notice something about human nature and the human mind, right? Is people would say something. They always root for the underdog. Like when you watch the movie, you watch the superhero, before he became a hero, or you watch the guy before he beat the bad guy, he's in the up and coming, he's growing, everyone is like rooting for him. Everybody's like, whoa, you can do it, you can make it, you can blah 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 blah. People just saying everything in your ear, saying you can do stuff until you actually win it, and then you become the champion. Then they're like, now they're rooting for somebody else to dethrone you. Now they're rooting for somebody else to pretty much take you out. Now they're rooting for somebody else to pretty much now be the champion. So that's the thing you got to understand is to there's a reason. That's the same reason why people hate on millionaires and billionaires, right? They'll be like, people are gonna be like, oh, you know what? Every millionaire is bad. Billionaires are taking over the world. Oh, how dare they? How dare they? Come in and take blah 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 blah. Destroy all this stuff. They're gonna say all sorts of things because when those people they forget that those billionaires and millionaires or whoever it is were exactly like them at some point. Because the thing is there's a fallacy of this is, and we're talking about this, is people like to abdicate responsibility and place the blame on someone else, right? So what does that mean? They like to say something like this. Let's do. It's not on me, right? Like let's say something happens to someone. They're like, it's not on me. It's my friend. It's my boss. It's my boss is the reason why I'm not making the money I want. My friend is the reason why I'm not doing this. My community is the reason why this. Society is the reason why this. Blah blah blah. They blame it on somebody else because what's interesting is this is when you place the blame on everybody else, when you point the finger out there, there's 4 fingers that's pointing directly at you. Okay, I want you guys to take that back. Let's take it in again. When you point the blame at somebody else, you have to take into account that it's 4 fingers pointing back at you. Okay, so but it's much easier because the thing is, this is as people, as individuals, we don't like it. I'm gonna say this: accountability is kryptonite to a lot of people because it is tough to look in the mirror and say it's my fault. I want you to take a moment right now. Pause, and I want you to go. I want you to go look in the mirror. Okay, look in the mirror. And I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to say, I want you to just look in the mirror, look in the mirror. And then, I want you to look in the mirror and say, it's my fault. Say it's my fault. Whatever it is, it's my fault. Take responsibility for it. Even if you're not the one that caused it, it's your fault. Listen, this one thing I've been complaining about North Carolina is traffic. I'm starting to hate the traffic in California, in North Carolina. And you know what's interesting? We all complain. I complain. I'm like, everyone's moving in here. People are moving in. All this people from California everywhere. And my girlfriend's like, you moved in from Florida. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. But still, I've been here longer. But still, the same concept is this: we like to say that the traffic is somebody else. But if you left 10 minutes early, you probably would have not been in traffic. If you left 15, 20 minutes early, you probably wouldn't have been stuck somewhere. If you left 40 minutes early, probably you wouldn't have been, been stuck in traffic. Yeah, because yes, easily said, because the comments coming in, the chat's pretty interesting today, guys. The chat's pretty interesting. But the main concept is this is the main concept, and I want you guys to take into account. We like to blame other people because when we blame other people, we abdicate responsibility. It makes us feel good because when you take responsibility, when you feel that pressure, because that's why people hate successful people. And here's the reason why. I'm going to say this because there's a chat I'm going to respond to, but I'm going to show the chats here. The chat's going to be shown in a little bit. We're going to read the chats and go to the chats. But when you see billionaires and millionaires as good people, as amazing people, as people who are, for lack of a better word, as people that what's the best way to put it? As people that are contributing to society, as people that are basically, productive to society, as people that are basically helping society, you know what ends up that happening? You end up seeing them as someone like you. Then you end up hating yourself because you're like, if they can do it, then why can't I? Why am I not doing it? Because you're like, if they can do it, then why am I not there? Why am I not there as an individual? Why am I not there as a person? Why am I not the one that's on top and they're on top? Because then again, it's easier to see people as the enemy that are doing better than you, because when you see them as the enemy that are doing better than you, then you can justify why your inadequacy. Then you can justify why you're not successful, because the reality is this is we always want to justify why other people other people are doing better than us. Well, he's doing better than me because his father gave him $30 million. She's doing better than me because she was born on a different zip code. He's doing better than me because of this color of his skin or because of whatever it is. We want to see a reason why someone else is doing better than us and justify that as a reason for our inadequacies. Right? So when you see yourself as a success, you eventually at some point become the target. Let me tell you something. When you look at the scoreboard of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Let's look at the winning the roster, whoever won. The most hated person on that roster is the number one. You know why? Because guess what? The number one reminds them. It reminds them that guess what? I could do it, but I'm not there, which means they took my spot, which means there's something wrong with them, which means we start to see them as the enemy rather than seeing them as inspiration. That's why when the lady said, if you say you were 10, people are like, oh my God, do you see it? Look at her face. Oh my God, what? People start to go now. We're like, who do you think you are? Because now you're basically getting into the number one spot. And when you get into the number one spot, you are making yourself a target. But then guess what? That is the reason why today's topic is the dark side of self-confidence that you didn't know about. Okay? Because we're going to talk about this. Because then again, everybody wants to be more confident. Everybody say, I want confidence. Because guess what? They say if you're confident, you're going to get the partner of your dreams. You want the girl of your dreams. You're like, if only I had the confidence. You see the girl at the bar. You're like, oh my God. And you're looking at your friend. You're like, hey, Jimmy. Jimmy's like, oh, yeah, look at the girl. 3 o'clock. You look at 3 o'clock. And you're like, wow. Oh, look, God, she's so. And then you're like, Jimmy's like, yeah, but she'd never talk to any girl, to talk to guys like us. And you're like, no, Jimmy, you're right. She wouldn't. And then you go home and then you think about this girl and then you go on Facebook and you stalk her and then you magically find a way to find her and then you start messaging and then she's like, who are you, creepy stalker? But guess what? Maybe if you'd gone and spoken to the lady in January, she'd have been like, maybe she'd have rejected you grace and said, hey, you know what? Absolutely. Here's what do kids use these days? Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever it is that they do. You Bumble, you're like, here's my Bumble QR code. I don't know what it is. And then maybe that would have been a relationship. I don't know. But you probably saying, you know what? The girl of my dreams went away because I wasn't confident enough. The job, if only I was able to, I started a job. I'll tell a story. So there was a job I was working at. And this was, I would say, maybe 4 years ago. It was a position I was at basically with the company. And I was discussing with one of the managers and she was complaining. She goes, well, another manager started with a position, her in her position. And we have 100 people live here today, guys, which is awesome. She's like, another manager started with her, but then this manager is getting paid $9 or whatever. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was a decent amount of money, more than she was. And she's like, well, I got to go tell them, I want a raise, so I'm going to quit. And I'm like, dude, she's like, I was like, then just tell them, hey, okay. But if they don't give you the raise, are you actually going to? She's like, well, I'm like, well, then don't be saying something that you're not going to do. That's one. And then two, the second of it all is this. She was looking at it from a perspective of this is to, I needed to, because there's a saying I'm going to say, in life, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. Okay? In life, I'm going to say it again. You do not get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So whenever someone says, Okay. I deserve, like I like this. I like this one. Say women say, I deserve a man who makes 600,000 a year. I don't know, something, whatever it is. 6'11", and all the other stuff that comes with it. I'm not, just for the sake of, this is kind of a business podcast, so I don't want to kind of get a little bit too, you know, graphic. So we just keep it PG-13. They say all this stuff, right? I deserve this. I deserve. Or guys like, I deserve a Victoria's Secret model, right? But then he's living in his basement with his mom. I deserve a 7-figure job, but you don't have any marketable skills. I deserve a whatever it is, put whatever it is, but then you don't bring anything to the table, because in life you do not get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. I want you guys to leave in the chat, but we're gonna go in the chats right now, and then I'm gonna show you guys another video. But let's go to the chat. So we've got every chat will be shown on screen, guys. So whenever you make a chat, just know to be shown. First off, guys, there's go join the newsletter right there. https://learnwithigwe.com. Join the newsletter and let know whenever I'm going to go live, whenever we come with a new product, and also get helpful tips that also come that join the newsletter for the most part. Everything that comes with newsletter, right? I'm not gonna blast you like crazy stuff, but might get crazy. So, this is exciting. Let's go. I was showing. Okay, I think this is before. Interesting topic. Yeah, easily said, because they're already on top. Yeah, but then again, it's not even the concept of the already on top, Bernadette. It's not the concept of the already on top. It's the concept of, I want you to think about it from the perspective of, yeah, they're already on top, but you got to understand is they got their some. No one just is born. Well, then again, there's people that are born on top. Like for instance, if you saw one of Sam, I think Sam Walton has 4 kids, and his poorest kid is worth 50 billion. Sam Walton's poorest kid is worth 50 billion. Okay, so you gotta ask yourself, what are you doing with your life? Okay, me and you, we're not worth 50 billion. But the situations in which people are born on top, but not everyone got there basically by, being born on top. Most people had to work their way to get there. Most people had to struggle to get there. So the concept of, yeah, they're born on top, I don't necessarily see that as, oh, yeah, they're born on top. I personally just see it from a perspective, and this is what I see. If in my honest opinion, and just being honest with you, I personally see it as in the sense to they negotiated with life and said, you know what, I want more, I deserve more, and then guess what, they got more, right? That's the concept, and that's what I want you to keep in mind. And think, and as you go on this, I want you to think about it from the perspective as to they asked for more. They said, you know what? I am going to bring this to the marketplace. I'm going to increase my skills. I'm going to come with marketable skills, and I'm going to come with people, build a team. So then they got what it is that they negotiated in life, not what in a sense as to what they deserve, right? So Greg Davis says, agree. Christy, it's hard to admit we're at fault most of the time. Yeah, it's hard to admit that we're at fault, because then again, it's to accepting that you're at fault is basically accepting, what would I call it? Accepting your fault is basically you saying to yourself that yes, you're wrong. It's you actually saying to yourself that yes, I am wrong. But the genuine, honest truth is most people aren't willing to admit that. They're not willing to come to terms and actually admit that, right? And then let's see here as we continue here. So it says the dark side of self-confidence is a thought-provoking and insightful discussion. Let's see. Oh yes, truly, Yvonne, and we've got Greg. Can too much confidence lead to underestimating challenges? Okay. Can too much confidence, you guys drop I'm going to answer the questions, guys. So we're kind of going to go into a Q&A for the next 15-20 minutes. Okay, we're going to go into a Q&A that I'm going to show in the video, and then Q&A is going to continue from there. So then again, guys, post your questions, and then I'm going to answer the questions, all right? But let's see what Greg says. Can too much confidence lead to underestimating challenges? It's not necessarily of underestimating challenges. It's basically under preparing for it, right? Because then again, as I think it was Abraham Lincoln said this. He says, if you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, if you give me 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 5 hours sharpening the tree, right? And now when people start underestimating, when people start getting too confident, they start yes, it leads to underestimating challenges, but it also, when you underestimate challenges, you end up being on, like, what's the word I'm saying? Lack of prepared, not prepared enough. Okay, you don't get prepared enough because this is the concept, and this is something I kind of want you to kind of soak in, and I kind of want you to keep in mind, and I want you to pretty much understand the context of is if you are, let's say you want to basically, let's say you have a challenge, and I say, hey, let's say Greg, right? Greg, I want you to drive from Northern California to Northern Florida, right? You're like, hey, I'm an expert driver. I can do it. I've driven it before. I can do it. There's nothing that's going to stop me. Boom. I'm ready to go. Let's go. But I'm like, okay, Greg, what are you going to do? Tell me your plan. You're like, well, you know what? My car, I'm very confident in the car, so I'm confident that I can drive 600 miles straight, 500 miles straight. I know how to save gas. I'm not going to stop at a gas station. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go 500 miles at a stop. And I'm like, all right, cool. Hey, whatever you want to do. Let's say it's a 5,000-mile journey. You go the first 500 miles, but your car barely makes it. It can do 500, but it barely makes it. You overestimate what your car is capable of, and then boom, at 470, boom, you break down on the street, and then guess what? You need a gas station. You need to go to a gas station, get some gas. Same thing. You're going to go to. I'll give you an example. So, my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, right? He's like, hey, let's get in a fight, right? And I'm like, cool, dude. So I was like, first off, at the time, I think he was 17. I'm like, I'm not going to fight at 17. I don't think that's even legal, right? But then again, it's like, let's get a fight. I know, one, I'm built like a boxer. That's one, all right? But two, I haven't trained in a long time. So if I go get in a fight and I get beat by an 18-year-old, it's like the whole world's going to be like, you get beat by an 18-year-old or 17, whatever it is his age. And if I beat an 18-year-old, it was going to be like, you beat an 18-year-old, dude. That's not like, what? How terrible of a human being are you? But then again, if I go, I'm like, yeah, you know what? This kid, how old? I've got like almost 8, 9, technically almost 10 years on this guy. And I'm like, dude, I can knock him out. And I go and I boom, get knocked out. Guess what? How am I going to look? But then again, that's underestimated. So it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter. You don't underestimate whatever situation you're going into. You go in with your best preparation, regardless of how small of an obstacle it looks. Because guess what? It could be a small obstacle, but then that small obstacle could literally start growing as you start to face it, right? So then again, too much overconfidence can lead to underestimate challenges. Yes. But it's very important to pretty much keep in mind and very important to understand the context of this. And this is the context I want you to understand. Always be prepared. All right. And let's go into the next question. Yvonne said, my friend appeared overconfident in a job interview, possibly costing her the opportunity. Can high self-confidence in potential professional setting backfire, and how can it be moderated? That's an interesting one. My friend appeared overconfident in a job interview, possibly costing her the opportunity. Can high self-confidence in professional settings backfire, and how can it be moderated? Okay. Let me put it in the best way. I don't know what job interview that was. If you could put some more context as to what that job interview is. I don't know if it's what the position is, but some positions, yes, you do need to have confidence in the position. Like for instance, if you're going into sales, yes, you do need confidence. Like if we're having salespeople, we don't want someone's like, and I'm like, hey, sell me this remote, and you're like, well, the remote is portable, right? You have a pocket, yeah. It can fit in your pocket, and you can travel with it, and it has buttons on it. I'm like, dude, who are you trying to sell to? You're trying to sell to even a 3-year-old will fall asleep just listening to that, right? So, but you're like, hey, listen, okay, good. You're like, what do you typically do? What do you typically use remotes for? Well, I use remotes for TVs. I use remotes for my light. This lights are remote controlled. I use remotes for my car. Well, my car's not remote, but yeah, technically it is. I use remotes for my car. I use remotes for blah 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 blah, all that stuff, right? And all right, you're like, okay, good. You use remotes for, all right, good. So now, how would you like to this? All right, if there is a way in which you can basically get those remotes all consolidated into one, where you can basically have one remote that controls everything, what's that word to you? You're like, dude, that means I don't have to worry about. But then you're like, yeah, that means I don't have to worry about carrying a bunch of stuff for me, and I just have one. But then again, you kind of understand the gist, right? Is the concept of repairing confidence is basic confidence is basically what translates to people, and where basically people start to like, yes, I understand what's going on. Yes, people start to like resonate with you. Yes. People, you sell the confidence because it's the belief in your product. It's the belief in yourself. That's what self-confidence is. Self-confidence is the belief in yourself. Self-confidence is basically how you carry yourself. It's like you think that you are the shit. You think that it's you. You think that you run the world. Guess what? People are not going to like it. And guess what? You're going to see yourself as a 10, and they're going to say, no, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And guess what? They're going to call you on your bluff, and you're going to get challenged. You're going to get challenged on it. That's why here's the point is this. at some point, at first you fake confidence until you become confident, but once you become confident, understand that people will test your confidence, right? You fake confidence, and you fake confident. You're like, yeah, I'm so confident, so indifferent, and all that stuff. And then guess what? Boom, you go talk to a girl that's testing you, like, and then you start acting all weak, and it's like, oh, it's fake. That's the concept you got to keep in mind. That's why you got to keep that confidence going. That's why you got to keep that confidence fire. You got to keep that fire going, right? And also, guys, like I said, just head if you join, because we have 260 people watching us now. Just a heads up, we will be doing a live. I'm gonna be doing. You guys see my teeth? You see my teeth? You see the teeth? See? That's if you guys knew I had Invisaligns on. I'm gonna get back to the questions. All right, I'm gonna get back to the questions. All right, but I had Invisaligns on, and I'm actually gonna be having the orthodontist. I'm always trying to struggle to say that word. Orthodontist, orthodontist. Is it? Well, ortho. Is it ortho? Orthodontist. I'm gonna be having an orthodontist on, and he's gonna be talking about the things about the teeth. How you gotta fix your teeth, And for those of you who have messed up teeth, listen. Let me tell you something. When you smile, like for instance, I smile right now. My girlfriend's like, "Oh my god, that's it. That's exactly the kind of smile that you need." All right, we'll be talking about that on the 20th, November 20th. All right. Next question. Next thing we got. The truth hurts. Ha ha ha. Christina, why did I say that? Correct. And Kayla. Hey, Kayla Kayla. Listen, my bad, guys. My bad if I butcher your name. It's just part of the process, okay? Kayla says, how does overconfidence affect long-term career success? Ooh, that's tough. It's not necessarily that it affects long-term career success. What ends up happening is it's not that it basically overcome. Oh, this is from my team. This is I have a member of my team who moderates my chats. Like, can self-confidence lead to? Well, Zion, I'm gonna say this is it leads to overlooking important details. Well, no, I don't think self-confidence can lead to basically overlooking important details. But as you should know this, you've been a member of my staff and member of the team, is we work on basically being precise in everything we do. Okay. Then again, this has to be structured, and it has to be basically kind of like an oversight, right? But thanks again for commenting. Then again, guys, do me a favor and make sure to join the newsletter as well. And I'm going to go ahead and answer Kayla's question here. So Kayla's question: how does overconfidence affect long-term career success? Okay. So confidence can affect it. It's not necessarily that it can affect long-term success. Okay. It's not that it can affect long-term success, but yeah, Yvonne is like, you're laughing. But then again, yeah, I know it's funny because especially when you have your team supposed to be moderating your chat is asking questions. But I mean, those are still great questions to begin with, by the way. How does overconfidence affect long-term career success? So overconfidence affects long-term career success because you start. There's a Robert Greene has this book called 48 Laws of Power, and I think it's law 1 or one of the laws says, do not outshine the master. Don't outshine the master. Okay. And here's what happens is if you are in a W2 position, right, and you start appearing so confident, you start being more confident than the boss. You start basically being that individual that's more, you start to become more of the center of attention. Guess what? People start to get envious and people start to get jealous. And when people get envious and people start getting jealous, then you start to become a target. All right. That's why, there's a saying that, you want to kind of lay low in an employing position. But the main key thing that you got to pay attention to is not only just you want to lay low in a W2 position, it's you don't want to kind of make too much noise. Because when you make too much noise, egos get ruffled. Feathers get ruffled. And then egos are threatened. And when egos are threatened, guess what? You're the center of attention. And it's happened to me before, right? Because people start to say, wow, this guy's the star of the show. When you're the star of the show, you become the number one. Now you're the number one. Now the bosses are threatened. And when they're threatened, boom, they come for you. Okay. So that's something you got to pay attention to. All right. So in the sense it affects long-term career success. But another key advice is this. I'm not going to say don't be confident. What I would say is this is be confident, but also keep moving up the ladder. Keep moving up the ladder. And if you're in a position where you plateau, then you might want to look for a career choice. That's what I said. In what ways does the dark side of self-confidence impact one's personal integrity? Well, it's not necessarily does it. It's your question is very vague, Tony. It's very, very vague in the sense of in what ways is dark side of self-confidence. I needed to elaborate more on that because then again, the dark side of self-confidence is not necessarily like confidence is dark. It's more or less in the sense as to it's more or less this is how I want you to understand it. I want you to think about it from a perspective of the confidence, your confidence level, where it's at. It needs to be in a position in which you are aware of your surroundings and you're aware of your environment. Most people are not aware of the environment. They're not aware of, who they're dealing with. They're not aware of the fact that, they're outshining the master, shining the boss, right? You got to be very patient. You got to be understanding of where you, because again, the more confident you are, the more enemies you make. Okay. So that's something you got to pretty much keep in mind there as you pretty much progress along the basically, whatever structure of business line, business world that you're pretty much in. So let's go ahead. We'll come back to the questions, guys. Make sure you leave your questions, leave your chats. I'll read the chats as we go. But let's go ahead and I want to go ahead and take a listen to this. This is from Tyler Perry, and he said something which is interesting. Let's get this.
You got to be careful because when you put too many people on the boat, there's some trying to put holes in it because they want it to sink because they don't like that you're sailing. Sometimes in your life, you're spinning up to the next level and people start to fall off and it hurts. It's lonely, especially when there's somebody that you.
But he said something is this, which is very important. He says you can't put everybody on the boat. You can't put everybody on the boat. And Adrian Scott said, well said, man. No, you can't put everybody on the boat. You cannot absolutely under no circumstance can you put everybody on the boat, because guess what? There are people that will be on the boat with you. There are people that will basically jump on to come work with you. There are people that will jump on and come do business with you. There are people that will jump on to say, you know what, I'm down with you, but then deep down, you're getting more successful than they are. And guess what? There's a crabs in a bucket. I want you guys. There's a crabs in a bucket, and I wish I had this up, but basically this is what they would do. So you guys ever notice if you go see like you go to a seafood place and you have crabs, you ever notice that they just leave the crabs just there, and then the water is pretty much open and they can do whatever they want. But the crabs in a bucket mentality, the crabs in a bucket philosophy, this is how it works. The way it works is this: is they put all these crabs in a bucket, right? And what ends up happening is when they put all the crabs in a bucket, whenever a crab tries to leave the bucket, right? Whenever a crab tries to crawl out, whatever it is, the other crabs will go in and pull it down. Okay. If it tries to leave again, they'll go in, they'll pull it down. And if it keeps trying, eventually they'll start to rip it to shreds, right? That is the same mentality as this is to when you start getting successful, especially when your confidence starts to radiate, people will start to tear you down. They want to tear that confidence because they don't have it. They don't see it in them. So the more confident you get, the one of the dark sides is you start to have more people that are against you, and they will do their best to try to tear you down. Right? So as you cram, and then the more confident you appear, the more they try to tear you down. And the more you go, the more they're going to try to rip you to shreds. That's why you got to understand is to, when people call you names and say things to you, it's not necessarily because you're a bad person. They're saying it because of the crabs in the bucket mentality. They don't want you to be better than them, because if you're better than them, then you're a reminder to them that you're inadequate. And people don't like to be reminded of the inadequacies. They like to think that they're on top of the world, and you being successful is basically a reminder to them that they are inadequate.
Really loved and had a great time with and wish that they could be there with you. But you have to understand and realize that toxicity is poison to your wings. It will cause you to crash. So you have to be able to say, I love you, but I'm sorry, this does not work for me anymore. Then you get oh, you bougie, you changing. Oh, no, now you got all this and you don't want. None of that matters. Walk through the pain of the loneliness. The higher you go, the smaller that circle gets. Jealousy will show up in ways that you didn't even expect it. If people who've been right under you as long as you didn't exceed what they thought you could be. The minute you start to go higher than they believed you could go, it's ugly.
That's it. And that's it. Well said there. Well said. The moment you start to go higher than they believe that you could, that they believe your potential, boom. That's where the ugliness starts. And I'm very curious what you guys' personal experiences are. I'm very curious what your personal experiences is in the sense as to, have you been in a situation in which you were, you had to overcome a situation, not even necessarily confidence, but you had to overcome a situation. You had to basically overcome a struggle. You had to basically live a life. You had to do something. Have you been in that situation? Okay. And if you have been in that situation, here's one thing I want to understand is if you've been in that situation, then I'm going to ask you this question is, how were you able to deal with the fact as to people, the same people that you cared and you would probably go to bat for, turned against you because of your success? right? They started to root against you. And then again, it's not even, it's the weirdest thing. It's not even that they're bad people. That's the weirdest thing, because we try to attribute and say they're bad people, but they're not bad people. I don't see them as bad people. I see them as good people being influenced by the negativity that is part of their humanity. I'm going to say this again. They're good people that is influenced by the negativity that is part of their humanity. They're only human, right? So for me to hate on somebody and say, you know what, that person is not supporting me, guess what? They're not going to support you that long term. They're not. Your own family members are going to turn against you at some point when you become the most successful person in your group, in your environment, or whatever situation you are. They eventually at some point going to turn against you. But then again, you got to think about it. This is something you got to think about. If at that point comes in time, if that point in time does come and they do pretty much go ahead and they do turn against you, are you doing it for them or are you doing it for you? Because then again, if your confidence is derived from other people's opinion of you, when they turn against you, it's going to hurt even more. If your confidence is derived from what other people think about you, when they start to shape shift, it's going to hurt you even more. When your confidence is derived from you know what your spouse has to say to you, what your partner has to say to you, what your kids have to say to you, when at some point they start to say, if you're like, oh my god, I'm so confident because my kids think I'm an awesome mom, and then they start to say, oh mom, I don't like you, I don't love you anymore, mom, you suck, mom, what are you gonna do then? Are you gonna go start getting depressed? If your confidence is based off of basically your friend group, what are you gonna say when your friends start, you find out your friends are talking behind your back saying you're a lazy piece of whatever it is, right? What are you going to say at that point in time? And that's where most people don't ever fathom. That's where most people don't tend to understand. That's where most people don't tend to realize. That's where most people don't try to like keep in the mind. You got to keep in the back of your mind this. Okay, you got to keep in your mind. You got to keep your mind. Yes, yes, of course. Yes, jealousy is a real thing, right? No, and you got to keep it. This is one thing you got to keep in the back of your mind. You got to keep in the back of your mind this, that you were born alone in this world. So your self-confidence, if it's relied on other people, it's the equivalent of you basically having an electric car and going to charge it in your neighbor's backyard when you have a charger in your yard. Okay? It's the equivalent of you basically having your iPhone, your Android phone, and going to charge it in your neighbor's house, but you never ever use your charger at home. You become dependent on them because guess what? If they're not home, you can't charge because you have locked your inner potential away. And the reason why I'm saying this is because recently, the reason one of the reasons why this conversation is something that kind of was like, I wanted to kind of talk about it was recently I started understanding. I'm like, I have been genuinely nice to a lot of people. Okay. What impact of excessive confidence on personal shit? I have been extremely nice to people. I'm gonna get to the guys. Then again, please drop your questions and then drop your questions, and we're gonna take the question because we're at 37 minutes, so pretty much we're wrapping up in like 50 minutes. So drop your questions. All right, I'm gonna take the last 5 questions. But one of the things I started to realize was because I was genuinely nice to a lot of people, and then I would hear the things that they would say behind my back. They would say all sorts of just tragic things, and I'm like, or they would be like, "Oh, I heard this and this happened," or "I heard this and this," and I'm like, it was just like, dude, it's it's terrible to think about that to hear that because I remember this is something where this was, I would say, maybe 2.5 years ago. There was this guy who I wanted to help promote the business, right? So I was going to hire him as an affiliate. And he'd come in contact with an acquaintance of mine. Long story short, he didn't know that I told this person, and he was like, I knew this acquaintance, and he was like, oh, Emmanuel's he's like, this is his word, he's the rich bastard, right? It was his word, rich bastard. And he said all sorts of tragic things, and I ran into him not too long after that. And he's like, "Oh man, how you doing, dude? It's good to see you. It's been a long time." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, you just called me a rich bastard not too long ago. So my whole perceptive of that is this: is he a bad person? I don't see him necessarily as a bad person, but I see him as a jealous and envious person. I see him as somebody who, in a sense, he lets his jealousy and his enviousness get the better of him. I see him as an individual, as someone who basically gets in a position in which he basically, how would I put it? The best way to put it is this: he's an individual. He's someone who could basically be rooting for himself and pushing himself forward, Rather than doing that, he's like, oh, I'm gonna find this guy. I'm gonna hate on him because he's successful. Okay, because then again, it's easier to pull something down, super easy to pull something down, than it is to build yourself up. Because it takes tenacity, it takes consistency, it takes discipline, and it takes work to work on something over a long period of time. And guess what? People would much rather hate on you than do the work themselves. Right now, let's go ahead and dive into some questions here. So this question came in from Beverly Jackson. What are the impact of excessive self-confidence on personal relationships? What are the impact of excessive self-confidence? What are the impact of excessive self-confidence in personal relationships? That's interesting to say. Okay, so in the sense to the impact of self-confidence on personal relationships is this. So one of the impacts of, I would say, of excessive self-confidence in personal relationships, all right, is one, how are you how do you view and treat the other person, right? Because self-confidence is it becomes, how would I put it, toxic when you're doing it at the detriment of other people. Take, for instance, give you an example. Is it, do you get your confidence from tearing other people down? Let's say you have a spouse and you're like, oh, you're like, oh, you look so fat, but me, look at me, you could be ripped up like me and have all these muscles and all that stuff, but look at what do you choose to do with yourself. That's an element of you actually at that point in position. You degrade, basically taking away somebody else's self-esteem to make yourself feel good. That on its own is negative. If you ask me, I'm just be frankly honest with you. But if it's in a situation like, hey, listen, I think you can do this. I've been doing this. I'm gonna take you along with me, right? It's self-confidence becomes detrimental in personal relationships when it starts being, basically, how would I put it? You're doing it at the detriment of other people, or you're using other people's, basically, what's the word I want to use? You're basically using other people's lack of of confidence or whatever it is to boost yourself up. It's basically now you're becoming the bully, right? And that's where that bully comes in, is to you tear other people down, make them feel bad so you can look good. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm the big macho guy. That is when that self-confidence starts to become deteriorated. And then you see it a lot in relationships where, if it's a woman that makes more than a man, she goes, oh, what do? You don't do anything with yourself, look at you, make more than you, blah, 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 blah. Or if it's a man that makes more than a woman, it's like, oh, what do you do with your life? You don't do anything, you just stay here. You don't. Now you start to see where it starts to kind of get a little bit, a little bit, I don't like to use the word toxic, because I think the word toxic has been taken, twisted, hijacked, and used for negative purposes. The word toxic has become toxic itself, but so I don't want to use the word toxic. I want to say, basically, for the senses too, it just becomes detrimental to the relationship when you're basically doing everything, you're boosting yourself up at the detriment of other people. All right. And we've got Kayla's question here. How can one maintain a balance between confidence and humility in social interactions? That's an interesting one. I got to think about that one. Then again, guys, I'm only going to take 3 more questions. We're wrapping up shortly, so just go ahead and drop your questions down. How can one maintain a balance between confidence and humility in social interactions? That's interesting. That's interesting in the sense too. I don't think I don't think there's necessarily maintaining a balance between confidence and humility. I think it's more of, what's the best way to put it? It's all about perception, right? How are you coming across, and who is the audience? Who are you talking to, right? Let's put it this way. How can one maintain a balance between confidence and humility in social interactions? I think at the end of the day, some people, you got to understand this. This is one thing I want you to keep in mind. Some people will see you as overly cocky. Some people are going to see you as overly too confident. Some people are going to see you as overly, overbearing. They're going to see you as loud. They're going to see you as, who do they think they are? Right? Because you got to think about it from this perspective. The moment you start talking, you're going to have 3 camps of people. People who agree with you, people who disagree with you, and people who are indifferent to you. Okay, you're gonna have the people who agree with you, people who are indifferent to you, and people who disagree with you. Okay, now when you have the people who agree with you, which means you're confident, they're gonna see you as like, yeah, okay, maybe this guy's a humble guy. He's not saying anything. I don't feel hurt. I don't feel like this person's personally targeting me. I don't feel like they're making anything, to make me feel bad. in that situation. And you're gonna have the other person's like, who do they think they are? It's like the Grinch. They're gonna be like, hey, who do they think that? Yeah, that's what makes me sound like a pirate. But they're like, they're like, who does this person think this person is? Right? Who do you think you are? Right? Because then again, it's not necessarily because you got to think about it. Right? Is humility and overconfidence? That's what I'm going to use. It is a projection, right? Perception is projection. I'll give an example. So I'm looking to, so there's a car I like, and I just really literally just looked at the car recently, like before I went outside. And I had to do a few things. So I went out the house. And guess what I saw? I saw that exact same car. That exact same car everywhere I went, right? But then again, it's because I perceive the car. I've already looked at it. I've looked at the image. I like it. Now my mind is open to it. So it's projecting out there. Show me more of it. Right? When someone perceives you as overconfident or too cocky or whatever it is, it's because deep down they have internal beliefs that you're matching. Because somebody else might not be seeing you as overconfident and overbearing. Somebody else might be seeing you overconfident as overbearing. But those are kind of a few things that basically you got to kind of keep it. You got to pretty much keep in your mind as to you can't make everybody happy. You cannot make everybody happy. Not everyone's going to get happy. No one. You can't make everybody happy. No, it's not going to happen. It's not even possible for you to make everyone happy. Because when you look at it from a perspective of, oh yeah, I want to make everyone happy. Oh yeah, it's not possible. It's not going to happen. It's not. Just keep that in mind. It's not going to happen. Not at all. You can't make everyone happy. Absolutely right. Hey Martha and Bernadette, 100% agree. Greg, hey man, how can entrepreneurs balance confidence with market realities? Oh yeah, that's a tough one. Woo, I'm not a financial expert, so I'm not going to say this. This is not finance advice, right? How would I put it this way? I personally think what's happening is, one, the Fed's raising interest rates, so which means money's getting expensive, right? Capital's getting to cost a little bit more, right? So what that means is most people are not really going to invest more into the, like for instance, if it costs me more money now to get a loan, now I either have to put that burden on my customer, raise the price, which means now they're struggling to eat. But then if I don't raise the price and I'm struggling, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a scenario. So my favorite Chinese restaurant when I first when I first got the place I got here in the Carolinas, it was, what I mean, this was hands down the best Chinese food on the planet, no doubt about it, right? And I remember I got to I actually built a relationship with the owners. I knew the son, the whole nine yard, And one of the owners, she was talking to me. She's like, she looked stressed and she was tired. I'm like, hey, what's going on? So she's like, well, it's getting expensive, right? She's like, everything, they're raising the prices on us. But I'm like, so why don't you raise the prices on your on the food you sell, the food items you sell? She goes, no, I don't want to, because if I raise the prices, then people are not going to show up. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm like, and little did she know, because I paid $20 for my meal, but then literally the day prior, I paid $60 somewhere else. Right. And I was paying $56 somewhere else, but I was paying $20 for a place. And I was like, why don't you raise the prices? People will pay more. She goes, no, because if I do, I'm going to lose customers. But I'm like, if you don't raise the prices, you're going to go out of business, which means you will lose the business regardless. She's like, no, I don't really want to, because if I do, then this and that and this and this. And I'm like, just raise the prices. But she didn't want to raise the prices. And then what ended up happening was literally, I think less than 6 months later, I pull her in from work. I go, I'm like, yeah. I pull up. It closed. And honestly, if she had raised the prices, I would have paid more. If she said, hey, we went from $7 a plate to $14 a plate, I'd have bought $14 a plate. Right? Because then again, the food was that good. I'll pay more. So that's kind of the concept to kind of keep it to realities. This is because my point is, if you don't raise the prices in your business, you will go out of business. You kind of have to adjust your prices to mark the inflation of the market. I would just say this is to, I think in a sense, is to your confidence in the market. I think this is going, I don't want to say doom and gloom, because I don't want to preach and say, oh my God, there's going to be recession. I can't, I'm not the Fed. I can't tell you guys if we're in a recession. I would say this: pay attention to your grocery market, your goods, whatever it is that you're paying, and see how much everything's going up, and then use that as your gauge. But as far as you as an entrepreneur, invest more in your skills, right? Build skill sets that are marketable even in a recession. That's probably the best advice that I would give you. And you're my financial advisor. I was Greg, you're my financial advisor. I was watching. Okay. Okay, financial. I wouldn't call myself a financial advisor, but I did sell insurance in the past, so that's pretty much it. But then again, guys, we've come to the end of the show. That'll be pretty much it. Thanks again for everybody being on. We had 200 people watching us live, 269, just to say that number. Thanks again, guys, and I'll try to do more of this live. Just my schedule's kind of got a little crazy. I like going through the lives. I like going through the comments. I like chatting with you guys because I think this is kind of exciting and interesting to have a conversation, and we basically get to talk about everything for the most part. But then again, that's all I have for everyone, and I can always like to say enjoy, bye bye, take care, and I'll catch you guys on a future